what I'm looking to do is, today, just have a casual conversation, if you like. Really, nothing too strenuous, sorry, and understand a little bit more about, edit and data. Data is a massive thing at the moment, and it always will be, to be honest. Get your views and talk a little bit about yourself. So perhaps if you want to give yourself, give us an introduction about who you are and what you do, that'll bring some context.
Cool. Do you want me to start now?
Yeah, carry on.
Perfect. So I'm Marc Dallimore. I'm Director of Data Science, Analytics and BI. I guess my role predominantly is to work with clients, understand what their kind of bugbears are, understand what their objectives are as a business, and help them either use the data they currently have to answer those questions, or at least put them on a journey to answer those questions. Or the flip side is we can help them put an infrastructure in place to collect the correct data and structure the data in the correct way, so that in time they can then start using that data in a much more efficient, effective way. I guess would be my general elevator pitch of what I do.
Yeah, okay. And so with and these businesses, organizations, what do you generally find is the challenge here? Is it the understanding of value of data that they have, or how they can put data to use? What is it you see that's happening? Have you seen a shift in things?
Yeah, I think in the last maybe 2-3 years, I've definitely seen a shift in terms of people wanting to use data, but not necessarily knowing why, how, what they should be doing. I guess fundamentally, you've got some businesses over the last couple of years with lockdowns, COVID, things like that, who have significantly lost money, and therefore the use of data has become extremely important because they need to make sure that they're getting the best bang for their buck. They need to make sure that they understand the most about their client and the customer, sorry.
Yeah.
Make sure that they are communicating to people in the correct way. It goes back to, I started in marketing and advertising several years ago now, and I think every meeting was right person, right message, right time. And essentially, we're in a world right now where people need to use data to communicate with the right people at the right time, with the right message. And a lot of what we've worked with clients over the last kind of, like I say, 18 months to 2 years, has been understanding their customer as much as possible. And I think that could be anything from doing a basic segmentation, so the recency, frequency, monetary value segmentation, to basically look at the types of engagements and behaviors of those customers that they have. Or it could be something a little bit more broader, building personas using mosaic groups, for example. I don't think we're in a world right now where everybody knows as much as they think they know about their customers. I think there's a lot of companies that hold a lot of data, and how valuable that data is really does come down to how actionable it is. And we as an agency who work with businesses and marketing functions, we don't really know until we lift the hood on the engine and see what we're working with.
Yeah.
One of the things that as a business we've really adapted to because of this is we've kind of got this 3-phased approach to dealing with clients. Phase 1 is kind of an immersion day. That immersion day is typically, let's say you're the client. We sit down together and we get a whiteboard, really old fashioned, and maybe that's just my way of working, but that's the way I like to do it. Get a whiteboard out, write the challenges that you have as a business and the things that you're trying to address. Then start writing your data sources and what data you have. Start looking at what data you've got available and the quality of that data. And then from that, me and my team will go have a bit of a brainstorm. This is kind of the phase 2 approach, where we'll come back with to get more customers, let's say. What we've done is we would do segmentation. We would then look at audience B, because these are the customers that bring, these are the newer customers who've got a good LTV, because we've also done an LTV model for you. And then we would work with our strategic consultants to basically say, how do we get more of B audience? And then phase 3 is the implementation of that onto your CRM, but then also the measurement of that. I think it's easy to talk about using data to get more customers or drive more revenue from the current customers that you've got. But that measurement piece is just as important as the strategic piece. So one of the things that we've done is we've looked at almost like productizing BI and reporting. And it's not a out-of-the-box solution as such, but it's a heavily customizable, yet doesn't need a lot of tweaks to take it from one client to another if we're doing a similar type of project than what we've done with them in the past.
Yeah, so it's a refinement process. It has this point of data is the new oil. You're effectively refining the process from A through to B. But I suspect what I've seen, with using products like Amazon, Google, Facebook, whatever, is that is getting it right. Sometimes you can get the wrong message, or you're targeting the wrong piece. Everybody's trying to strive for this, the right person at the right time, as you said. It's understanding the outcomes a challenge. Do you find that as a challenge? Because I suppose sometimes people will look at it as, well, I'm getting this much interest from these sets of people, but actually it doesn't really correlate to what we think we know. Do you see that as a challenge? The outcome, do people really care about the outcome?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've seen and around that topic of what the outcome is, we're talking to a lot of our clients at the moment who are talking, the language becomes, I guess, quality, not quantity. Okay. So it's you can do a lot of short-term like marketing campaigns where you're looking to acquire new customers. I'm talking here your 20% off campaigns, that kind of stuff to get volume. But bringing 100 customers into your business who don't ever interact with you again isn't as valuable as bringing 20 customers in who every month interact with you as a business.
Yeah.
So I guess where I'm going to with this is going back to your first point of oil, like data being the new oil. It very much becomes, having a load of oil isn't massively useful. It's being able to use that oil to actually generate things. So if you think of, I'm going on a weird world of conversations in my head here, but if you've got a load of oil and you're a farmer, that oil's only useful if it can help operate your machinery, that can help you harvest significantly more crops than you could do without that oil. Just having barrels and barrels of oil doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form. And I think that comes back to my earlier point, which was there are companies that have got a load of data and don't really know what to do with it. And I think that's the kind of analogy I'm saying here, where if you've got a load of oil but you can't do anything with it, what's the point in having a load of oil? And I guess that's the same point I've got from a data perspective. Having lots of data but not knowing how to use it is as it limits you as much as not having data in the first place, because you just don't have those expertise to get the most out of it.
Yeah, so some organizations are sat on data, they really don't understand what to do, but you would talk to these people to get the best value from their data and give them direction on what sort of ways to use that data to help maximize revenue, customer experience, then, I guess. Yeah,
it's like that's our job, right? Like where we add value, it's helping. Let me go back a little bit. Yeah. Most of the people that we deal with are marketing directors and marketing managers and CMOs. So, and I mean this in the nicest way possible to anybody who does watch this, who works with us. Typically, they are data literate, but they aren't experts in data. And what you find is there are a lot of companies that have smaller data departments, and therefore the marketing function don't get a chance to get a lot of information from them. So what we do really well is we bridge that gap from being data experts but with that marketing hat on. And therefore, we can go into conversations which are around marketing strategy, communication strategies, those kind of things. And what we can do is we can tell the marketers what they need to understand and what they need to get from the data. And then we can help have that conversation with the data experts within the business of what we need, when we need it, and how we want it. I had a conversation recently where I was getting asked around my data science team and being asked to describe them. And it was kind of like, you've only got a few words. What would you describe your team as? And I said, it's experts in turning business language into technical language and technical language into business language. And why that's really important is you get a lot of organizations that we work with who've got managing directors and CEOs who, don't get me wrong, they've been in the marketing world for 30, 40 years. But in that period, the life of data has changed so much over that time. And you can't be expected to be at this level up here and still understand all the granularity of the data that is available to you and how to use it.
Yeah.
So what I find that we're really good at is having those conversations to explain to people who are 1, 2, 3 steps removed from the day-to-day why it's important to work with us, and therefore why it's important to let us help you guys do more with your data and therefore drive incremental revenue, I guess is the point.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about a few years ago to now, what have you seen in terms of changes in technology in what you're doing? Is there any significant change you've seen to help go through this process to come to what we do next?
It's a really interesting question, and I'll probably get a little bit of a slapped wrist. I think fundamentally what we do now is very similar to what we were doing kind of 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It's understanding customers, grouping them together in the correct way, building the predictive model to say, what do we think this person will do next?
Sure.
And then action in a communication strategy. So the kind of top level actions, nothing really changed there.
Yeah.
But what has changed is the amount of data you capture. So I think a club card, for example, is a really good example. I know club cards have been around for more than the last 4 or 5 years, but if you're a supermarket, the amount of data you're capturing on a club card is so much more different than what a supermarket visit was kind of before club cards existed. So if you think that every item that you've ever purchased is stored on a database somewhere, like the value of Tesco or Sainsbury's, whoever it is who's providing you with these kind of vouchers every 2-3 months, which is kind of £2 off, £3 off. The actual value of the data that they're capturing from you 4 times a week when you're going to the supermarket, showing your shopping behaviors, showing what items you buy, meaning that we can then start looking at, okay, what relationships are there between products? And therefore, we know person X always purchases product A. Let's give them vouchers for product B because we think that they'll also like them. Because typically people who like product A also like product B. That becomes significantly more valuable than a £2 off toilet roll, which is where you end up, which is the value transfer, I guess, between the supermarkets and the consumer.
That's a very interesting point, and some people might see that as a frustration if they're getting pushed towards something where they don't actually want. But what we're trying to do here is use as much intelligence of behavioral patterns to make that suggestion that actually this is what they want. So we have things like AI, machine learning, etc. Do you see that coming more and more into profiling the behaviors and the data that's collected to make 2 or 3 or whatever, or in an ideal world, based on at this point in time they're here doing this, present them with that, and that's going to be really useful for that individual?
Yes. So especially in the digital world, So with the demise of the cookie and third-party tracking solutions, things like that, I definitely feel first-party data will become significantly more important in terms of communication with people and making predictions on what that person's going to want to do. Because where at the moment you could run a display campaign, let's say, and in that display campaign, you are looking for people who like product A. Let's call product A a pair of black jeans, because that's the easiest thing to talk about. Okay. Any company that sell black jeans could go target that person. However, if you're a clothing retailer, I'm really trying to not name companies, but if you're a clothing retailer,
sure,
and you sell black jeans and you have a customer who every 4 months purchases a pair of jeans, I think marketing a pair of jeans to that person at like 3 months down the line, predicting at what point that person is going to become an in-market customer, because you've got that data, you understand what they do. I think things like that will become extremely valuable. I think what that will then do is that we'll see a shift in customized user journeys over time. So I think if you're a returning customer to a business, what will happen is they will know so much about your behavior, your persona, your likes, your dislikes, that we will eventually end up in a world where websites are almost built on machine learning, and everybody will have a different journey. So myself and yourself will go and engage with a company that we probably both have engaged with 1,000,000 times, but like I'm going to use a large online retailer, let's say, that deliver things next day.
Oh no, I think I know the one.
Let's say I assume me and you both engage with them quite a lot, but I think we'll end up in a world where if we both land on the homepage, the entire journey that we will both experience will be very different, because they will be utilizing, and I'm not saying they're not doing this already, but I think it'll become increasingly more tailored to a person based on the data that they capture. And I think that will see a shift at the point where businesses start to ingest further data around customers. And I think that will be something that we will see.
Almost moving from what you're collecting to making recommendations on what you should be collecting to get better outcomes for.
Yeah.
Right.
I think one thing which I find really interesting, and I've spoken to this about a few people, is, and I'm going to have to name the brand at this point, but when you go on Amazon, Amazon give you the option of nominating a charity. I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can nominate a charity on there. What that does for me is that gives Amazon an understanding of your emotional intent. So you're basically, you have a list of charities, which are all well-known charities. And when you make a purchase, a percentage of what you purchase is donated to that charity. What you're essentially doing is you're saying to consumer A, okay, you tell me what your emotional attachment is and what your behavioral bias is towards these charities. I'm not necessarily saying that data is then used in a tailored way from an advertising point of view, but I mean, I've done that. I've nominated a charity, and I get an email every month, which is, this is how much that charity's been given. I get an email if I haven't used a link in a while, because you have to use a specific link, and it tells you you've not used this in a while. Your charity's missed out on X amount of money. And what I think that does is it takes audience knowledge from things like recency, frequency, monetary value, mosaic groups, to attitudinal groups. So what is your attitude towards things? Because limitations of an RFM, for example, so recency, frequency, monetary value, is two very different people can engage with a business in exactly the same way. They can spend exactly the same amount of money. They can do it every week, and their last purchase could have been a week ago. However, those people can be very different in terms of what they are buying. So you could be a pregnant woman who is starting to buy equipment for when your baby's born over time. You could be, I use this as an example just because one of my friends is doing it at the moment. You could recently have signed up to coach under 13 football team or under 11 football team, and you're buying equipment that you've not done in the past. That's a massive shift in your attitude and your behavior from what you were doing kind of 3-4 months ago. If you look at a basic segmentation, like say RFM, that's not going to look at the products you're buying, why you're buying them, your emotional intent behind them. So I see businesses partnering with other businesses in this way to collect more attitudinal and behavioral data about people over time.
That's really interesting. So it's almost gauging emotion as well as not habits or buying habits, let's call them, lack of a better word. Just really using data to understand a persona type effectively of an individual's persona type. But as humans, we're always changing through life anyway, different times, different requirements. Like your coach is doing that at the moment, I guess, because every piece of data starts from a human input, and it's how quickly that can be actioned to provide something of benefit to that individual is the challenge, isn't it? So I guess there's an argument of ensuring that data is moved quickly as possible to be looked at and worked with to ensure that the people who hold that data is relevant to that individual through their journey, and retain is a monetary thing about it, but there's also more of a value to the individual.
Yeah, I think fundamentally there's two things that I kind of look at when it comes to data, and especially data in the marketing context, is if you're going to invest in data, you need to at least reap that reward in revenue. Otherwise, why would you invest in data? Sure. The second point is, if you're going to invest, it needs to be to drive more customers or get more from the customers that you currently have. So I think it's probably easier, and this is very industry specific. Obviously, different industries have different kind of benchmarks against this, but I think fundamentally it's probably easier to get more from the customers that you already have. And to get more customers, you have to start by understanding your current customers and what makes them your customers. So if you can get emotional information and emotional data or behavioral data rather than just how often they interact with you, it then allows you to then go find more people like that.
It's hard to acquire and much more makes much more sense to nurture. As a good takeaway. Okay, just so people know, how do they reach out to Edit if they need to get in touch or any questions?
So, fundamentally, come to our website. We do quite a lot of events. So we do a lot of talking events, which we post up on our website in advance. We've got a contact us form on the website. On there, you can obviously also see all of our case studies, things like that. Or you can email me directly, which is marc.dallimore@edit.co.uk. So that's Mark with a C, because my parents decided to spell my name interestingly. But yeah, I guess the thing that we're looking for at the moment is to have those kind of initial conversations with people where essentially we're basically saying to you guys, don't feel like you need to come to us and say, here's the money, we're ready to go. We can have those conversations where we can say whether it's right for you now or whether it's right for you in the future. And if it's not right for you now, we can help you go on that journey.
Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time this afternoon. Very, very insightful. Great. Appreciate it.
No problem.